조지 오웰 1984. With those children, he thought, he wretched woman must lead a life of terror. Again year, 2 years, and they would be watching her night and day for symptoms of unorthodoxy. Nearly all children nowadays were horrible. What was worst of all was that by means of such organizations, the spies, they were systematically turned into ungovernable little savages, and yet this produced in them no tendency whatever to rebel against the doctrine of the party. On the contrary, they adored the party and everything connected with it. The songs, the processions, the banners, the hiking, the drilling with dumpy rifles, the value of slogan, the worship of Big Brother. It was all sort of a glorious game to them. All their ferocity was turned outward against the enemies of the state, against the foreigner, traitor, saboteur, third criminals. It was almost normal for people over 30 to be frightened of their own children, and with a good reason, for hardly a week passed in which the Times did not carry a paragraph describing how some eavesdropping little sneak, child hero, was the phrase generally used, had overheard some compromising remark and denounced his parent to the thought police. The sting of catapult bullet had worn off. He picked up his pen half-heartedly, wondering whether he could find something more to write in the diary. Suddenly he began thinking of Oblivion again. Years ago, how long was it? 7 years it must be. He had dreamed that he was walking through a pitch-dark room, and someone sitting on one side of him had said as he passed, "We shall meet in the place where there is no darkness." It was said very quietly, almost casually, a statement, not a command. He had walked on without pausing. What was curious was that at the time, in the dream, the word had not made much impression on him. It was only later and by degrees that they had seemed to take on significance. He could not now remember whether it was before or after having the dream that he had seen Oblivion for the first time. Nor could remember when he had first identified the voice of Oblivion. But at any rate, the identification existed. It was Oblivion who had spoken to him out of the dark. Winston had never been able to feel sure, ever after this morning's flash of the eyes. It was still impossible to be sure whether Oblivion was a friend or an enemy, nor did it even seem to matter greatly. There was a link of understanding between them more important than affection or partisanship. "We shall be meet in the place where there is no darkness," he had said. Winston did not know what it meant, only that in some way or another it would come true. The voice from the telescreen paused. A trumpet call, clear and beautiful, floated into the stagnant air. The voice continued raspingly. "Attention, your attention please. A news flash as this movement arrived from the Malabar front. Our force in South India had won a glorious victory. I am authorized to say that the action you are now reporting may well bring the war within measurable distance of each end. Here is a news flash. Bad news coming, thought Winston, and sure enough, following on a gory description of the annihilation of a Eurasian army with stupendous figure of killed and prisoners, came the announcement that as from next week the chocolate ration would be reduced from 30 grams to 20. Winston batched again. The gin was wearing off, leaving a deflated flea. The telescreen, perhaps to celebrate the victory, perhaps to drown the memory of the roast chocolate, crashed into Oceania. This for the you are supposed to stand to attention. However, in his present position, he was invisible. Oceania, that's for the gave way to rival music. Winston walked over to the window, keeping his back to the telescreen. The day was still cold and clear. Somewhere far away, a rocket bomb exploded into a dull, reverberating roar. About 20 or 30 of them a week were falling on London at present. Down in the street, the wind flapped the torn poster to and fro, and the word "in sock" fitfully appeared and vanished. In sock. The sacred principles of in sock. To speak, double think, the mutability of the past. He felt as though he were wandering in the forest of the sea bottom, lost the monstrous world where he himself was the monster. He was alone. The past was dead. The future was unimaginable. Past certainly had he that a single human creature now living was on his side, and what way of knowing that the dominion of the body would not endure forever? Like an answer, the three slogan on the white face of the Ministry of Truth came back at him. War is peace. Freedom is slavery. Ignorance is strength. He took a 25-cent piece out of his pocket. There too, in tiny clear lettering, the same slogan was inscribed. And on the other face of the coin, the head of Big Brother. Even from the coin, the eyes pursued you. On coin, on stamp, on the covers of books, on banners, on posters, and on the wrapping of a cigarette packet, everywhere. Always the eyes watching you, and the voice enveloping you. Asleep or awake, walking or eating, indoor or out of the door, in the bath or in bed. No escape. Nothing was your own except a few cubic centimeters inside your skull. The sun had shifted around, and the myriad windows of the Ministry of Truth, with light no longer shining on them, looked grim as the roof of a fortress. His heart quailed before the enormous pyramidal shape. It was too strong. It could not be stormed. A thousand rocket bombs would not batter it down. He wondered again for whom he was writing the diary. For the future? For the past? For the age that might be imaginary? And in front of him there lay not death, but annihilation. The diary would be reduced to ash and himself to vapor. Only the thought Follies would read what he had written. Therefore, they wiped it out of existence and out of memory. How could you make appeal to the future when not a trace of you, not even an anonymous word scribed on a piece of paper, could physically survive? The television star struck 14. He must leave in 10 minutes. He had to beg at work by 14:30. Curiously, the chiming of the hour seemed to have put new heart into him. He was a lonely ghost uttering a truth that nobody would ever heard. But so long as he uttered it in some obscure way, the continuity was not broken. It was not by making yourself heard, but by staying sane. Then you carried on the human heritage. He went back to the table, dipped his pen, and wrote. To the future, or to the past, to the time when thought is free, when men are different from one another and do not live alone, to a time when truth exists and what's done cannot be undone. From the age of the uniformity, from the age of solitude, from the age of Big Brother, from the age of double think, greeting. He was already there. He reflected. It seemed to him that it was only now, and he had begun to be able to formulate his thought, that he had taken the decisive step. The consequence of every act included in the act itself. He wrote, "Thought crime does not entail death. So crime is death." Now that he had recognized himself as a dead man, it became important to stay alive as long as possible. Two fingers of his right hand were ink-stained. It was exactly the kind of detail that might betray you. Some nosing zealot in the ministry, a woman probably, someone like the little sandy-haired woman or the dark-haired girl from the fiction department, might start wondering why he had been writing during the lunch interval, why he had used an old-fashioned pen, what he had been writing, and then drove a hint in the appropriate quarter. He went to the bathroom and carefully scrubbed the ink away with a gritty dark brown soap, which rasped your skin like sandpaper, and was therefore well adapted for this purpose. He put the diary away in the drawer. It was quite useless to think of hiding it, but he could at least make sure whether or not its existence had been discovered. A hair laid across the paper ends was too obvious. With the tip of his finger, he picked up an identifiable grain of whitish dust and deposited it on the corner of the cover, where it was bound to be shaken off if the book was moved.